Mr. Chair, I rise today in support of my amendment, which underscores the importance of investing in safe, efficient, people-centered transportation systems for all communities across the country. I view every issue through a lens of equity and health. Without access to safe, reliable, and inclusive modes of transportation, our collective well-being suffers. Our families suffer, our communities suffer. But for far too long, our federal transportation funding and policies have created a landscape which has exacerbated inequities and disparities, particularly for low-income communities, people with disabilities, our youth, and seniors. In my district, Black and Latino commuters are more likely to experience longer travel times than their white peers. These unequal burdens make the promise of economic mobility further out of reach. I recently rode the T back home with an advocate named Diana, who was fighting for transit justice. We spent over 2 hours making a journey of just a little over 4 miles. Broken elevators, outdated infrastructure meant that the wheelchair Diane uses to navigate ran into constant access barriers. Just 2 weeks ago, the Red Line train derailed twice in 1 week, causing massive gridlock across my district and impacting the ability of riders to commute to work, school, home, and everywhere in between. Unfortunately, this isn't new. MBTA trains have derailed 43 times over the last 5 years, the second highest total of any metro transit system in our country. Much of these derailments place a disproportionate burden on the shoulders of low-wage hourly workers who are rushing to their second or third shift jobs, parents or caregivers who are traveling with young children on overcrowded and delayed trains, and riders with disabilities who already experience the failures daily of a biased and discriminatory system with ableist privilege as a lens. Our chronic underinvestments in mass transit, bus systems, bicycle, accessible, and pedestrian paths have caused income inequality and opportunity gaps in communities throughout the country. According to the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, inadequate access to affordable and reliable transportation has exacerbated health disparities, forcing many low-income patients to miss appointments, oftentimes worsening medical problems. Mr. Chair, people do not live in silos. They live in intersectionality, and our policy at the federal, state, and local levels should reflect this reality. We cannot spur economic development, tackle economic inequities in urban, suburban, and rural communities without modernized roads, bridges, and mass transit, which connects communities to jobs and higher education. We cannot tackle health disparities without reliable and affordable mass transit systems, which enable low-income families, seniors, and people with disabilities to access care. We cannot tackle the existential threat of climate change without intentionally investing in mass transit systems that protect frontline communities and alleviate the environmental health hazards caused by traffic congestion. Transit equity is a civil rights issue and an economic justice issue. We must continue to invest in transit infrastructure, multimodal improvements that promote inclusivity and dependability. My amendment emphasizes the important role that federal policy and investments make in equalizing access to reliable commuter rail and other mass transit options for all. The Build Grant program helps to support these types of state and locally driven transit projects. From investing in bus or commuter rail systems or cycling and pedestrian path projects, the Build program helps to drive innovative projects, and it seeks to expand the system and it's people-centered. I want to thank Chairman Price for his efforts to ensure robust funding for this program, which I do believe gets us one step closer to addressing these inequities across the system, repairing our crumbling infrastructure, as well as expanding our investment in multimodal transit. And with that, I would like to yield to Chairman Price for 1 minute.
The gentleman from North Carolina.